Here's the deal. What you can't do is nothing. What you can't do is you can't be a victim of paralysis by analysis. Like, you have to start to take steps now. Those in a position of authority have to begin to take steps to remedy what may feel like an unfixable problem. But nothing's unfixable. They can fix it. They can fix it. Now, it's a question of how quickly and how much money it's going to take and what are you willing to do? How many laws are you willing to break? For me, all of them. All of them. But that said, I do wonder what those conversations are like right about now, because everybody has disparate interests within this situation. There are some people who may not see themselves here 4 years from now. What do they care? Some people who know that their jobs are directly connected with this getting turned around. They have a vested interest by the minute that things begin to, turn around. Those that are not so sure they will be employed here after this Saturday, they've got a different set of interests as well, as in talking to other programs that might be interested in their services. There are so many different ways to view this disaster. We're on the outside as fans and boosters. We're connected, obviously, whether that's through our time at school or our financial contributions or just even our passion. But we're not in a position, you and I, and the 99.9% of the people listening to this, to exact change, to do something that will shape the course of where it is Florida State goes next. Roof One says 100% commit to Luke, spend portal money for an OL to protect and run the ball, and Luke time to develop. Only junior, senior for transfer portal players. Signetti plan. New coaches, DC, OL, linebacker, wide receiver, DL. Yeah, basically the staff. I think most would agree with you.
Basically the staff.
Basically the staff. New coaches. Just write all of them. The problem is, and I'm big on this, spend more portal money on the offensive line part of it, and I mean, tons of money on the offensive line, and then get after portal players. Yeah, but I think this is going to be a little bit more difficult than people realize. You are not attacking the portal in a way that you did, in which you were able to hit home run after home run after home run, because now everybody's in it and they get it. And so I think you're at a place where the caliber of player you're going to be able to compete and win, meaning win the battle of NIL and with the other schools that are trying to get their services, is going to be seriously diminished from the likes of what you had with 10 NFL players the last few years. Like, you're not getting Jermaine Johnson if it's today.
Agreed. So, but I mean, then what do you suggest? We just get a bunch of G5 guys, do nothing, and then fire Mike next year?
It's not. It's not do nothing. I do think you're going to have to do what you should have been doing all along, which is a much better job of evaluating players, both in the high school ranks and even in the portal now. This last swing and miss from these kids, this is awful. Many of them can't play.
Every dollar that you can spare for talent acquisition needs to go to talent acquisition. I'd even argue over some coaching changes. Now, I hope they make sweeping coaching changes, because clearly these guys aren't respected. If you're going to give an effort like that on Saturday, and that's not the first of its kind, then there's respect that's not being paid.
Which is why I'm worried about the head coach.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm worried about the head coach. Which is why I've entertained for the first time really all year, these last couple weeks, I've begun to think that, perhaps it's not crazy to say you have to cut ties with him, no matter what that's costing you long term. You may have to. And I hate that, because I like Mike, and I do think he's a good coach. I think he's failed miserably this season, obviously. I think he's made some ungodly mistakes in assessing what he thought he had, and also not recognizing what he was losing. Again, we talked about this last week. I think he lost more than NFL talent last year. He lost the leaders of the team to boot. They were the most talented and hardest working. And I think he trusted that the group behind that group would follow suit. And those guys did not follow suit. They did not work as hard. And he basically revealed that to us with the comments that you highlighted last week, which was that when Mike began to question what they were doing, when they weren't at practice in terms of commitment to each other and to the process of bettering themselves and this program above and beyond what was being asked, bare minimum asked at practice.
Yeah, what are you willing to do, on your own time? It's just when I hear the resistance in your voice to the idea of, well, we're not going to get those, like that defeatist, and I don't mean that in a bad way, just like legitimately, you're like, well, it doesn't make a difference. Then that has to be where you stand on the issue, is that it might be time to make the wholesale change from the top down. Because for me, it's, I think you bring in as many power coaches as you can, power conference coaches as you can, to help with the prestige, if you will, the legitimacy.
Oh, yeah. If you could get assistants, that they would have to be given assurances that you're not firing him anytime soon. They're not leaving those jobs.
Right.
If they think Mike's going to get fired in a year or two.
Yeah.
So when you commit to Mike right now and you don't fire him, you're committing to him for the next 3 years.
Well,
because that's the only way you're going to hire those assistants.
Yeah, you could say that out loud and not believe it, but yeah.
Well, I mean, those assistants and their agent, which is Jimmy Sexton, are going to want to know that their job is safe and that they're not all going to get run out as soon as you run the head coach out, which if is in a year or two is not a stable situation that they can commit to. These are the things that get talked about when you're 1-8. We talk about noise in the system. Every coach at one point has lamented, and I mean any place in which there's a controversy or losses are mounting or speculation has begun, coaches, administrators will often say, there's so much noise in the system and it doesn't make our job any easier. And they're usually used as a deflection to a hard question when they're cornered at some point, whether that be at a fundraiser or by a member of the press or whatever it is. But yeah, you can expect that that's only going to grow louder and louder and louder in the coming days. How could it not?
Yeah, I just feel like when you go 1-8 and everybody's voicemails are full and their email inboxes are lit up, and sometimes you have the random person sitting outside an office that want to give you a piece of your mind.
Yeah.
I'm sure that kind of weird stuff happens everywhere. But that births cover my ass season, CYA season, where everybody is trying to get the word out that, hey, man, I didn't do anything wrong.
Right,
it's
right.
them. It's their fault. It's not my fault. So I just wonder if that's part of it at 1-8, where everybody's trying to make sure that you understand, and by you, I mean whoever they're speaking to. It's not my fault. They're the ones to blame.
If you were to walk around over there and run into coaches and run into administrators, they're going to toe the company line. They're going to tell you they're working hard to repair the damages being done on a weekly basis. They're going to tell you that there is a path and a method out of this, that they have a plan. They're going to tell you all those things. I mean, what you would want to do is end up in one of those big games like we've been to, Tom, in the past, covering a Florida State LSU game, for example, or a game in Atlanta or whatever it might be, where you could have a real dinner and a real sit down, and perhaps the drinks are flowing and people begin to have honest dialogue about what is a mess, what isn't a mess, what can be fixed, and what is a real problem long-term. Right now would be a great time to have those kinds of conversations that we've had in the past with sources and others, kind of let you know what's what. I think there is a lot of finger pointing. It's the Spider-Man thing, I'm sure, to some degree.
Yeah.
But at 1-8, man, ultimately, the people in the highest positions of power. So if you say football is a problem, where do you begin? Well, you start by, and the head coach has told you, the buck stops with me. So you would have to start with your problems with Mike. You would say, Mike, hey, I get it. These coaches have failed. You're going to replace these coaches. But ultimately, this performance every week is not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. So that's on you. Got it. The athletic director, I brought it up earlier today. I'm not saying fire Michael Alford. I'm saying that these things get uglier and louder every day that goes by. And when your football program is going through this kind of upheaval, and your basketball program's not any good, and in theory should be the two biggest money makers in athletics for you, neither are any good at all. Eventually people stop saying, oh, well, that coach and this coach and that assistant and that assistant. And they say, what about that guy, the athletic director? And he's got to know that's the next thing that's coming.
Oh, sure. I mean, this is something I think we talked about on Saturday too. Thought about it for a few weeks. You lose a game, it's a player or a position coach. You lose a few games, it's a coordinator. You lose a handful of games, it's the head coach. And if you lose 8 out of 9, it's the athletic director.
Yeah.
It just goes up the ladder. This is how the stuff piles up, and it goes up the ladder. I suppose if we finish 1-11, the president would be the one that people want to get fired. I don't know.
Well, I don't know if they want him fired, but they would want him to weigh in. Like a lot of times, they just want the president to be out of it.
Yeah.
Hey, you're the president of the university.
Yes. God knows we've had too many presidents.
Too many presidents who want. Yes.
Yeah.
So but at this point, they'd be like, hey, you need to come in, and these guys don't know what they're doing. Clean house. None of these people know what they're doing.
But that's the way that the fan interaction has gone over this season. It goes up one level at a time. The other hard part you have, because here's the one thing that Alford is known for. Everywhere he's been, he finds a way to generate revenue and fundraise.
Tough task right about now.
Well, and you're going to need fundraising more than ever this next offseason. How the hell are you going to pull that off? Like, what moves the needle enough that you can hit the ground? You're going to have to do that. Grassroots campaign to get Florida State some money. You're going to have to call Derek Brooks and Warwick Dunn, because I don't know that anybody on the active staff has that kind of pull where a Seminole club is going to show up.